guys, welcome back to another Frugal Friday. I am super excited, one, that it's Friday, and two, to talk about the frugal things and how we lived intentionally this week. Let's jump right into it. Alright guys, so to start off this Frugal Friday, I have to tell you that we have 3 wins and 1 big fat fail. Not too big of a fail, but let's go ahead and just start with the fail right now. So the fail for this week is that I went to Chick-fil-A and I also went out to lunch with my coworkers. So I started back to work this week and I've been working half days, and that's basically just so that we can get our little guy used to going to daycare and so that I could get used to being back at work. So the plan was that I was going to work 4-hour days one week, 6-hour days the next week, and then the following week I would go to 8 hours. Our little guy is transitioning really well, so I'm thinking I'm just going to go ahead and jump back into full-time at the second week, so skip the 6-hour week idea. But anywho, so I went back to work, and the first day my girlfriends and I wanted to go to lunch. So I went to lunch with them before picking him up from daycare, and that was okay. That is actually a part of our budget. I budget in a certain dollar amount for my work lunches. My husband has work lunches also, but his are mostly like work meetings, so his are paid for. But for mine, I do get a certain amount of money each month for those, so that was fine. But the next day, I went to pick him up from daycare, and I had to run a couple of errands. And the thought was that we would just kind of stretch out his daycare time a little bit. So I left work at the same time that I had the day before, but I forgot that I wanted to give him a little bit more time at daycare. So I ended up running some errands, and then I got hungry, I didn't have my lunch with me, and so I stopped at Chick-fil-A. And you guys, I love Chick-fil-A, but it is like, I don't know, like the bougie, like fast food restaurant, right? Like it is the creme de la creme. If you think of like you're going to a department store, you can go to JCPenney's where you always go, but somehow you end up at Nordstrom's and, you know, blow a bunch of money. So that's my feeling with Chick-fil-A. I feel like it's way pricier. I had a little gift card for a free milkshake, which I did use, so that was good. But I got chicken strips and a medium fry, and it was like $8. I could have gone to McDonald's and gotten a chicken sandwich and fries for like $3. So, not the best thing. Not the hugest, I just made that word up, not the biggest fail necessarily, but not really a good thing. And having been on maternity leave, we got really used to just like going out for fast food or picking up something really easy and quick for dinner or lunches, and so I really want to break that habit. So that Chick-fil-A run was not helpful towards breaking that habit. So that was my fail for this week. But let's move forward and look at some positive things. Alright guys, so our wins for this week. Number 1 was that I meal prepped like nobody's business this last weekend. And so I made snacks for my husband and I made lunches and put them in Tupperware. Now the win for this week is not only is it the meal prep, but it's also our new Tupperware. So I don't know if you're like me, I think everyone has this problem, but you have Tupperware and all of a sudden like your lids don't match anymore and a container is like old and things just aren't looking really good. So what I used to do was I started buying glass Tupperware about 2 years ago, but the glass is so heavy even when there's not food in it. So I didn't really love that idea. But what I did find recently was this set of containers on Amazon. They are uniform, they look exactly the same, and there's 20 of them in a package. They're light, they're, you know, you can put them in the dishwasher, you can put them in the microwave. I hand wash them just because I'm weird like that. But they are great, and they're pretty good sizes, but they keep you portioned really well, I think. So we started using those, and I use them for everything. I make our protein snack boxes, like kind of think of like what you would see at Starbucks. If you go to Starbucks and you see like those little boxes that have a little bit of fruit and nuts and cheese and like a hard-boiled egg, things like that. I make up enough of those for my husband and myself for a work week, and we can just grab those out and have them as a really easy, good, healthy snack for during the day. And then I also prepped our lunches in there. Now, like I said with the Chick-fil-A run, I didn't have my lunch with me, and it needed to be microwaved anyway. So that was a fail on my part. But the great thing about prepping your lunches and things like that is that even if you don't eat it for lunch, you can have it for dinner that that night or the next day or something like that. So we love those because we're on the go. Our schedules are still pretty busy. So we use those and it's great. We know exactly how much food we're supposed to be eating, and the portions are really, really good. So I really love those, and I will link them below. Just if you're interested in getting something like that. It actually has two, two compartments in the container. So there's one that's a larger one and a smaller one. So we just, use them for different things. But they're really great and we absolutely love them. And I like that they're all the same. So you don't have to search for a different lid for this specific container. They're just like uniform. My husband has even said that he wants to get rid of the rest of our Tupperware and just use these. Or, like buy a second set or something and just have those in rotation all the time. Which I don't think is a bad idea because they're that good. So the second win for this week was that we shopped around for tires. Now I mentioned last week, or I mentioned at the beginning of the week, that we had to buy new tires for my car. So I had been looking around. I'd put in my car information on a couple of different websites to see what the best tires would be and see kind of what their recommendation was. I ended up finding a tire that was $65 per tire. It was a really good tire. It actually had good ratings, good, I don't know, whatever you look for in a tire, like the weather, how it like stands up to like weather and the mileage and things like that. It was $65. So when we went into actually get new tires, we told the gentleman who helped us about that tire. Now unfortunately they didn't have that one in stock and they couldn't order it for some reason. Or I know what happened. So I'd seen that one, but I put in the wrong year for my car. So that tire wouldn't actually work for my car. But when he did go to look for other tires, the tire that he suggested was literally double the price for one tire. We were like, yeah, no, we want something closer to what I found online. So, even if it's not the exact brand, we want something that is similar to that. So he ended up going with a $75 tire. So it was, $75 for each tire. So about $400 out the door with new tires. But if we hadn't shopped around, you guys, we wouldn't have even known that you could get a tire for $75 because he would have been pushing the $150, $140 tire, and we would have just said, okay, yeah, that's fine, and we would have paid for it. So the lesson is to do your research. Look up yourself what the price is for certain items or services and things like that. And then when you go to get those things done, present that. Tell them, hey, I saw this online. Can you match this? Can you do something similar to this? What's the best deal that you have that's around this dollar amount? So even though the tire that I'd seen originally wasn't available, my husband said, okay, we want to stay in that range. Our max is $80 per tire. So you need to find something that's suitable for that. Otherwise, we'll have to go somewhere else. And he did just that. So don't be afraid to negotiate and don't be afraid to, do your own research. Protect yourself because he wasn't worried about how much we were going to spend on tires. That wasn't coming out of his pocket. So you have to know what it is that you're willing to do and be willing to put your foot down and say, okay, nope, that's too much. That's not in our budget. What have you. So be confident and be willing to do that. Alright guys, and my last win for this week is that I did have a couple of returns, which is when the Chick-fil-A incident happened. So it kind of evened out a little bit. But I had to take back a few things. Number one was that I purchased a couple of items for myself to wear back to work because my work pants don't exactly fit per se. They're pretty close, but they're too tight for me to actually wear. Like I can put them on and walk around the house, but I wouldn't be comfortable sitting at my desk in them, so I haven't worn them back to work. So knowing that, I wanted to go pick up a couple pairs of pants. So I went to Old Navy and I got a few pairs, came home and tried them on, and I just didn't like the way that they fit still. And so I figured, if I'm gonna, start working out and be eating better once I'm back to work, so I know that I'm gonna fit into my old pants eventually. I'm only gonna wear these pants for probably a few weeks. This doesn't really make sense, especially because they weren't like a perfect fit. So I went ahead and took them back. So that was one win. So a return to Old Navy. The other one was a dress that I took back to Target because again, like my clothes they just don't fit the same. Like even if they fit, technically they are just not the same in certain areas. And so I did buy a couple of items. One of the dresses I got was actually the wrong size, so I took that back and didn't bother to exchange it. So that was a little bit of money back in our pocket. And the last thing that I returned was an item that is really, really popular with babies, and we tried it with our son. It's called a dock-a-tot, and it's basically like a little sleeping pillow. They say they're not supposed to sleep in it. It's not like guarded, or it's not rated for safe sleeping. So again, like, you know, if you're not comfortable with that, don't let your baby sleep in it. But we purchased one for him to see if he would like it, and he did okay with it. It wasn't really better than he'd been sleeping normally, like without the dock-a-tot. But the reason that I took it back, he slept in it one night, just in case you're curious. The reason I took it back was that he was already too big for it, and it is for ages it's the one that we got is like the first level, so it's supposed to be from birth to 8 months. Well, his head would be like up against the top, and his feet were already at the bottom. So I was like, he's not gonna fit in this for another 2 weeks, let alone 6 months. Like, that's crazy. So I figured it wasn't working for us. It wasn't like a great deal for us, so I decided to take it back, which wasn't a nice thing because as desperate as I am to get him like sleeping longer stretches, it was $180. So we got that back in our pocket, and that just came out of like our baby fund that we'd had since before he was born. So even though it wasn't specifically like spending money that we would have been using this month, it was nice to just return that and get that money back in our pocket, especially because it really wouldn't serve the purpose that we were looking for. And I'm honestly surprised because people say he's a little bit big for a 3-month-old. People think that he's about 6 months, but even if your baby was 6 months at about his size, I don't know how your baby would fit in that for another 2.5 months or so. So I'm just not really sure about that. If you have had a dock-a-tot or you know someone who has, let me know your thoughts about it. And also give me your tips on sleeping longer stretches for baby. We do actually give him like a formula bottle at night, so we make sure that he's getting a good amount before he goes down to sleep. But that's a totally random separate thing. But anyway, those are our frugal fails and wins for this past week. I would love to know what win you have down in the comment below, and how you're recovering from a fail if you've had any. Hopefully you haven't, but you know, you can learn from them too. So let me know in a comment down below, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing Friday and a great weekend. I'll talk to you very soon.